Good morning. Home sweet home, the puzzle of modern housing demand. And understanding housing demand today requires more than counting rooftops or tracking population growth. And from a lender and capital markets perspective, true housing demand is shaped by who needs housing, why they need it, and what financial barriers stand in the way. And a comprehensive housing needs analysis really looks at two critical dimensions. First is the primary sources of housing demand, which is households that require entirely new housing units, and additional sources of housing demand, so households already housed but facing affordability, quality, or space constraints. And for mortgage professionals, developers, and community leaders, recognizing both dimensions is essential to building sustainable, financeable, and equitable housing strategies. So let's take a look at the primary sources of housing demand. And primary sources represent future oriented demand and rely heavily on projections. And these drivers determine how many new housing units must be built to support long term growth. Next is household growth. And household growth reflects the net increase in households driven by population growth, migration, and evolving household formation trends. So, from a lending standpoint, household growth directly fuels new construction lending, purchase mortgage demand, and long term housing absorption. So, let's take some action here. Communities and developers must plan ahead by delivering housing across multiple price points, assuring mortgage products align with income diversity and buyer profiles. So let's look at the housing due for replacement or aging into obsolescence section. Older housing stock eventually becomes unsafe or uninhabitable due to age, deferred maintenance, or structural deficiencies. And this creates hidden housing demand, especially in lower income segments where aging properties often serve as the most affordable options. So let's take some action there. Replacement housing must be factored into development pipelines and financing models, ensuring that lost units are replaced with safe, insurable, and mortgage eligible homes. There's potential relocating workers, so worker share is local. Many workers commute long distances due to a lack of nearby housing options that fit their income or lifestyle. And this demand is not projected, it already exists. So let's take some action there. Developing a workforce housing center near employment centers reduces commuting strain, strengthens local economies, and creates stable mortgage demand tied to employment hubs. So let's look at new households formed by younger adults. Younger adults living with parents represent pent up housing demand, and rising home prices, student debt, and affordability challenges have delayed household formation. So let's take some action there. Look at entry level rentals, townhomes, and starter homes supported by flexible mortgage products. And this could unlock this demand and stimulate first time homebuyer activity. Now let's look at some additional sources of housing demand. So these sources focus on improving housing outcomes, not simply increasing unit counts. So cost burdened households or households spending over 30% of their income on housing could face financial strain that limits long term stability. So let's look at taking some action there. Affordable housing development, targeted lending programs, and creative financing structures are critical tools to relieve cost burdens while maintaining deal viability. So let's look at renters interested in upgrading. Not all renters are struggling, and many seek better amenities or a path to ownership. And if we take some action there, some mid range housing development and mortgage readiness programs can help renters transition while also freeing lower cost units for those who need them the most. And let's look at some overcrowded households. So, overcrowding signals insufficient housing supply or inadequate unit sizes, which is often linked to affordability constraints. So, if we take some action there, we can look at larger unit development and subdivision strategies that can ease overcrowding as well as improve living conditions. Now, let's look at substandard housing. Homes lacking basic infrastructure or safety features reduce quality of life as well as neighborhood stability. So let's take some action there. Look at rehabilitation loans, replacement development, and targeted capital programs that help modernize housing stock, as well as protect long term asset value. So, why does this matter to mortgage and capital markets? Well, housing demand is not a one dimensional thing, and successful housing strategies must align a few factors. First, being income levels, age demographics, rental versus ownership preferences, as well as mortgage product availability. So, from her first time homebuyer loans to construction financing and capital advisory, understanding these drivers allows lenders and developers to structure smarter deals and communities to grow responsibility. And at Medallion Funds, we help borrowers, builders, and investors translate housing demand into financeable, scalable solutions. And that's what I'm here for. My name is Bill Rapp. My website is billrapponline.com. You can visit there to figure out how to get a hold of me and we can talk more. Have a good day.